Hi, this is Dr. K, and I would like to speak to you today about your writing process. This week, during week 2, you will be writing many things, and writing is time consuming. So let's talk about how you can avoid spinning in place and actually get on your writing bicycle and go someplace. Writing is a process that takes time. It can take more time than you think, but let's make sure that the time that you're spending is spent as effectively as possible. One of the things that we've found is that we are not as good at multitasking as we think we are. This has come to the forefront when we talk about texting and driving, but there is a kind of writing that is very similar to texting and driving, and that's the kind of writing that we want to avoid. There are specific thoughts and actions that you need to be doing, and you need to figure out what it is to do that you need to do first and next, and focus on each one in its turn, rather than trying to do everything at once. As you write at school or at work, pay attention to your own process. Actually write down your start time, your end time, and what you accomplished during that time. Think about where you were, what you were doing, because what you need to do is develop a productive way that you write that's specific to you and customized to what you need. During this class, you will have plenty of opportunity to become more efficient at writing. So find ways to write that are comfortable and that produce great results without spinning your wheels. Take some time to discuss this with your peers as well. When you post something on a discussion board, share ways that this was easy or difficult for you to write and the kind of things that made it easier for you to write, and learn from each other. Although there are many different ways of breaking down the writing process, I'm going to use this simple one. 5 steps have to happen for everything that you write. The first one is planning, then drafting. Finally, we move into revision, editing, and proofreading. What we tend to do is write a paragraph, any paragraph, revise it, decide that that paragraph just isn't right, edit it, do some proofreading, and then go back and write another paragraph. No, that is not going to work very well for you. So let's look at a different way of approaching it. Start your writing process with planning. One thing that we found is that whether we're at work or at school, we do not have carte blanche or totally open-ended writing. We get instructions, and there are certain things that we need to do. So read the instructions. Take some notes on those instructions and what they mean to you. Look a little bit at the genre and format and make some decisions about how that would look in your particular assignment. Make some decisions about what the purpose is. Be very mindful about what it is that you're writing and why you're writing it, and how you'll know when you're done and when you've done a good job. So often we continue to write and rewrite, and we are way over the top. We don't need to do all of that. If you're working on discussions, do some team building. Be aware of your timelines. It's very important to know what the due dates are and to parse out your time so that it's spent effectively. For example, this week you're writing a proposal. It's due on Sunday at midnight. When would you do your draft? When would you do your editing? When would you do your revision? When will you do your final proofreading and then upload it? Think about that ahead of time so that you know, and think about how long it might take you to write a 6-page document, for example. Be realistic. And finally, think about your audience. As you write the proposal this week, you are writing it for people who are at your workplace or the workplace for this particular process redesign. And so you're going to want to write this in the language that's appropriate. So think a little bit about that audience. That's your planning process. Do that first. After you have a plan, then you can start drafting. There's no sense in writing paragraphs when you're not sure what it is that you need to do. Just as there's no point in creating a detailed plan until you've got the charter signed. So start out by writing some individual sections. Write 1 or 2 at a time. Construct your introductions. There are 2 different introductions that you're going to need in your proposal document, and actually in every document that you write. One of these is an introduction to the document itself. This is like saying, we are going on a tour and I'm going to show you the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen before you walk into a house. In a document, you'll say, the purpose of this document is this, and the sections that we will be talking about are this, this, and this. That's different than introducing us to the actual process that we're going to be redesigning. It's just talking about an introduction to the document. Finally, you'll be developing conclusions and recommendations for a proposal as part of this. That's a separate section. So make sure that you understand and put that in its own specific section. In terms of developing headings and subheadings, don't overthink this. We've actually given you a format, and all you need to do is follow it. You don't need to come up with this from scratch. You don't need to do a proposal that would be like you would do it at work. We're just teaching you, in this particular case, to follow a proposal format. In terms of this document, planning your style is important. What will you use for headings? What font will you use? What margin size will you use? You can simplify this by using the PRM 611 style sheet, which is simply a template that we use for business writing documents, such as the proposal. And that is available in the content section. Also, if you're going to be using any visual materials such as graphics, charts, or images, that's something that you'll want to pull in during the drafting process, because you can't really explain something until you have that picture created or pulled in. And then finally, you'll want to structure and organize the document for maximum effectiveness. So think about your audience, think about the structure for the document that you've been given, and determine whether you need to do any tweaking. Within sections, think about the organization. We are very sequential. We often say step 1, step 2, step 3, but that's not always the best way to go. Chronological may also not be the best way to go. First this happened, then this happened, then that happened. may or may not work. Spatial is kind of using a physical layout. If you think about a process and you think about it as a flow chart, that's a spatial way of looking at a process. And you might want to organize your writing, for example, in describing the process around that spatial one. Another thing is analysis, and this is breaking things down into individual parts. So you start by introducing the larger piece and then break it down into smaller pieces, more detail, so that people know where you're going as opposed to starting sequentially and being surprised when we get there. You can do general to specific, specific to general, order of importance, compare and contrast. Do what works well within sections for your particular writing, but really start seeing structure, because structuring our writing is so critical to what we're doing in this class. If you are doing revision, that means that you have written most of the document already. You have words and paragraphs and sections, and they're all kind of muddled together, but none of it is tailored. None of it is in a final format. So in terms of revision, just read through each sentence. Does it make sense? Is it clear? Are there better word choices that you could use? Don't do this during the drafting process. Do it now as a separate revision piece, because you can see how everything flows together. Review how each paragraph is structured, and then look at the flow. Do you have enough information to base for understanding before you move on to other information? Another piece that happens during revision is considering word choices for headings. Make sure that you're using subheadings. The document really talks about major headings, but subheadings are one of the choices that will make your document stand out and be clear and easy to follow. Also, look to make sure that you're consistent. If you are doing numbered lists, make sure that they look like numbered lists and that one isn't all the way over to the right and the other all over to the left. Make it look pretty. Look carefully at layout and design choices. And how did you choose to use a lot of colors in your graphs and charts? Did you choose to go black and white? Are you consistent across? And look carefully at those graphics too. Make sure that if they're really long, that you put them down in an appendix. But if they're less than one page and you can put them in line with the writing, that's great. Look at what you chose for images. Are these the kind of things that would be used to effectively describe a process or an effect within the kind of organization that your audience is used to reading about? Once you have the organization and the majority of the words in the right place, do a final edit. Look at each sentence. Is it clear? Is there a more concise way that you can say this? Does each paragraph just address one topic, or are there multiple topics in any given paragraph? If there should only be one. Get rid of extra unnecessary words. You can often shorten things up. You'll find that there are duplications as you go through. If any of the discussions were there because they helped you understand better where you are going, it's possible that those are no longer needed and you can cut those out. We are not looking for the longest possible paper. We're looking for the most concise